What's that?
Like a really bad slam from armbar.
Oh, really?
Like over the guy.
You just got to remind me. Let's see what we can do here to kind of get this to work today. All right. Oh, let me adjust the... I posted a thing on Facebook today, so I'm hopeful we'll get some more people.
What do you mean, what? What did you do?
I posted on Facebook. See if we have any Facebook folks from the page. Let's see if this thing's actually working. We do a sound check. Oh, hello. Wait, what? What? Prizes, you guys, yeah, you two already won prizes. You won your prize, you got a prize. You have any prize in mind, Connie? You basically just name your prize right now. Whatever you want. Gi, rash guard, private lessons with Kevin. What other great things? What other great prizes could we give away, Kevin?
I could give you
Framed photographs of your instructors.
No, I could give you a sphere.
A spear.
No, a sphere.
A spear, a handmade, lovingly handcrafted, artisanal sphere from Kevin.
It's not lovingly crafted.
It is loving. I've seen him sanding lovingly. Maybe not loving. It's the wrong adjective.
They're anxiety
Adverb.
spheres.
It's an adverb. It's L-Y. It's an adverb.
It's filled with anxiety.
What's that?
The
Anxiety sphere? Is that what it is? It's kind of like a stress ball,
Well,
but instead it's a sand ball.
Fidget spinner.
What?
Fidget spinner was the idea.
A fidget spinner, but it doesn't spin.
It does. Balls typically spin if it's on like a table.
How attached are you to the pyramid? That would be a big prize.
Oh, that'd be nice. I'm afraid that someone's gonna like
Impale themselves on the pyramid?
yeah, like $1 million baby themselves on it. That's the worst.
But most people probably don't understand that reference.
Really? That got an Oscar, didn't it?
Yes, Hilary Swank, and then she never did another movie, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I don't understand that. You see a lot of people, they get an Oscar, and then they either never make another film, or they make like the worst films ever. I guess it's the payoff, right? You're just like...
At that point, like, what are you gonna do?
Like Cuba Gooding Jr. had an amazing... He won, what did he win for? He won for, what did he win? And then he did like Snow Dogs. What did he do? He won,
it was the football movie?
no, it was not Jerry Maguire, was it? Did he get an
No.
Oscar for Jerry Maguire?
It was the one where he was kind of slow.
The one where he was
He was just kind of slow. He was Cuba Gooding Jr. is a slow guy, and everybody loved him, and he did stuff. I don't know.
I don't know what that movie is. Who
It
knows?
was a good movie.
Who knows what Cuba Gooding Jr. I'm using the medicine ball today. I was thinking about this, Kevin, because I said on Facebook, I don't know if anybody's going to join us from Facebook today, but I said, there's probably a lot of people like me who haven't really been doing anything for months and months and months.
You've been doing things.
Huh?
You've been doing
kind of things, but I haven't been training. And so I was like, look, you guys should come and work out with us and do something. Get up off the couch and because you got to get ready to get back into training.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people who have started lifting.
You guys, I'm telling you, you have to. We're gonna do. I'm using this medicine ball. I was thinking about this, Kevin, because I knew what you were gonna say.
What?
You were gonna be like, "What's the best way to get ready to get back to training?" It's like just train. Like there's no real preparation.
Yeah, but if you don't have access to a gym, then that's not the best answer. It's not a helpful answer.
So I was thinking like we can do, push-ups and sit-ups and squats, which I think are awesome just in general. What?
Can we learn how to twerk?
That's on OnlyFans. That's Kevin's OnlyFans. I won't put that site up, but maybe if you check out Kevin's own.
I don't know how to do it.
OnlyFans?
I mean, I also don't know how to do that, but
It's not what I heard.
I don't know how to twerk. It seems hard.
But I was thinking, okay, enough, stop. Look, we want people to watch the show here, right? We don't want to scare them away in the first 10, 5 minutes. Oh my God.
Look how deep this squat
If you want to stay tuned at 6:15 for Kevin's twerk self lesson, then you can do that. I will be gone. I will leave the academy so you guys can do that on your own.
That'd be crazy.
You might want to. Unfortunately, you know, you can't tip on Facebook or on YouTube, so.
Can you imagine taking a class where like you learn something at the same time as the instructor?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be weird?
That would be awesome.
That'd be weird. Like you take a woodworking class and like the guys over there like reading furiously trying to figure out what to
So on page 42, they say, we should do this.
This is a good idea. Oh. Does anybody know what this does? Oh.
I like the medicine ball because, you know, unlike the push-ups and the sit-ups and the pull-ups or the squats, you're underweight. You know, that's like one of the, I was thinking, when you're rolling, you know, you're tense, your body is often tense, right? Like you're not able to like, just do whatever push-ups you want to do or whatever, and you shouldn't really be using your arms anyway like that. You know what I mean? It's like, but I was thinking like, when is it that you have to keep your core really tight the whole, like,
but like that's push-ups though.
well,
With
but you know what's better is
be...
when you do something, whatever it is, and then you plank.
Planks are good.
Planking is.
But aren't push-ups just like wobbly, not wobbly, but like moving planks?
I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same. I don't know, but I like these too because you gotta. It's almost like plyometrics.
Yeah.
You know.
I used to do plyo.
Oh, these are really good.
It's hard.
And then these ones here, like on these side to sides.
Yeah.
Because it's like I gotta keep my core super tight the whole time while I'm breathing.
Oh, I've been doing a lot of balance drills, like shoulder stands and head stands.
Oh, you know why? This is the thing with the push-ups. You can breathe in and out with the push-ups. You know, your body isn't like stiff the entire time. It's different. I think it's different. I think that that planks feel substantively different than push-ups.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know why, but it just feels different.
I agree that they do feel different. I think it's also because like by the time I burn out on push-ups, I could still do like probably.
Yeah, well that's the other thing, right? Unless you can do 100 push-ups,
yeah,
you're probably gonna be
not me.
not. You can plank for 30 minutes, you know. 4 minutes.
Well, people can.
Russian twists.
My elbow is weird.
Oh, you getting the thing?
Oh, it's just been clicky.
Mine finally, my
bursitis.
my bursitis finally just disappeared.
That's good. Did it pop or did it?
No, it just slowly drained. That was a weird injury.
Yeah.
It wasn't really an injury. It was just like a weird thing. You know, for not training very much this year, I've had pretty much the worst, you know, group of injuries and conditions ever. I had my chest burster, I had my bursitis, I had my arthritis.
Gross.
I wish I had videotaped my chest burster.
Why?
Because it was impressive.
Sounds great.
Oh, did I ever tell you I got that cultured? I got it cultured. There was no bacteria in it. Yeah, they cultured it for strep and staph and MRSA and all that crap. It wasn't anything.
It had no bacteria at all.
I mean, it had some bacteria, but not that kind of bacteria.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like,
It's like
it was definitely angry and red and all nasty.
That's what I was saying. Like,
But it wasn't,
just,
I thought for sure it was going to be like MRSA or something. I was going to have a big hole in my chest.
just a pimple. That's fine.
It was like a boil. It wasn't a pimple. It was like it was a cyst that had gotten infected. And part of the cyst came out. That was yummy.
Gross.
I could pull it out like I pulled it out.
No, thank you.
I didn't know you were so squeamish, Kevin. See, I bet you didn't think you were going to tune in and hear about chest bursting boils that you had to pull out. But you know what? I don't hide anything from my fans, Kevin. I am totally transparent.
That's good. I too value transparency.
Transparency is next to godliness. Wait, no. That's cleanliness. Oh, are you doing them too, Kevin?
Actually, it seems easier.
What?
Like it helps.
Oh, because you have the counterbalance.
Balance. Yeah, what the kids have been making them do, like these shoulder stands.
You're gonna hurt somebody's neck doing that.
Not if you just put all of your weight on your shoulder. It's like a forward roll, but really
I think I
slow.
did that once. You know the old, Do you know the old, what was it? There was an old thing where you were playing guard and you could like roll into somebody to put them back in guard.
Like a grandy roll.
Yeah. I remember I did that to somebody and they just landed on top of me. and I don't think I could move my neck for like 2 months.
Fine. Yeah, I grandy rolled someone today and I think you know how when they're like on your back and then you roll and then as you tuck into the floor, they're like riding and their face is just too big for the roll and then it scrapes along the mat. I did that.
Yeah.
It was.
Did the person like do like a little mini scorpion?
I didn't really see, but he looked flustered. So I like checked on him and it was fine.
Didn't Casey almost kill the man doing that?
Yeah. I've experienced it. If you're not ready for it, it's pretty.
You better
scary.
tap.
Well,
it's almost like the fireman's carry is another one where
Well, it's like you have the option of either you can take the throw, or you can like abandon all of your grips and ideas to save yourself. And
abandoned ship.
Yeah, you're making someone the option, or giving someone an option they can't refuse. Like the arm, or not the arm drag, the collar drag.
The collar drag.
Right, you just grab that. It's not.
You can put your hands on the floor or your face.
So you have two options, right? You could either ignore this problem, or you just hands out. So, but I don't know. Sometimes I have mixed feelings about it.
What?
Like grandying someone off of your back at a
I wouldn't do it to like a brand new white belt.
yeah, it's
because if they didn't know anything, because they'll probably hurt themselves.
It was a disease. So
it's kind of the same reason I wouldn't like do like I wouldn't throw somebody super hard. If they didn't really know how to fall. Yeah. Because they were probably gonna kill themselves. Yeah. Or me.
Maybe.
Probably both. Oh, my luck.
No.
So if you don't have a medicine ball, you can just do squats like Kevin. My legs have been so sore from doing this. I haven't done it in so long. You doing pistol squats?
I can do one.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh, good recovery. That was good. Wow.
Mild butt on floor, but
I think that's more impressive.
I know what'll help. This will make it safer. Hold on. I gotta get the clown music going in my head.
This is, oh my God, you're gonna kill yourself.
Oh, it's so much easier.
Is it? Oh.
It would be if it weren't so round. But having the space for the heel to drop in is that's nice.
10 more, 9 more on each side. I don't want to do it. I can barely walk, Kevin. I can barely do a squat with 2 legs.
These are the only pistols I'll ever have, so I'm going to enjoy them.
Here, I need to back up so when you fall, you don't take me out with you.
Oh, this is my bad leg. Come on, Peggy. Let's do it.
I'm very tempted to throw this ball at that ball just to see what happens. Oh! Wow. Impressive.
All right. Oh, I'm going to get some GANs this year. Forget about the push-ups.
That's a very practical drill.
I'm practicing believing in myself.
What?
I'm practicing believing in myself, Rich.
That's good. It's good to believe in yourself.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
That's fun. Functional strength.
Oh wait. This one. Oh.
I used to really like watching old kung fu movies.
What is it?
Old kung fu movies where they would like have rows of people just doing like the hardest training, like hanging upside down or like doing a headstand on concrete for 8 hours, hitting each other with sticks. balancing.
Should we do that? Should we get like some bamboo sticks and just whack each other while we're doing things?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that I should be the one doing it.
Why?
But
Why not?
that'd be weird. I don't want to just beat people.
Well, you wouldn't be just beating them. You would
Well,
be.
but how do you know?
You would be. What do you mean? You're getting paid. It's like a. It's
Yeah,
not about.
but-
It's not just because
but what if I-
you
what
enjoy
if-
beating people. It's actually they're paying you to beat them.
Yeah, but if I show up and I have a bad day one day,
Yeah.
right?
You
And-
charge them
and-
extra
and I'm
for
just
extra
like,
beating.
I'm angry, and then I'm beating them because I'm angry, not because I want to help
Hey, you
them.
know, sometimes they're going to be rolling with somebody who is going to beat them up because they're angry with them.
Uh-huh.
They have to learn how to defend themselves.
But is
sometimes.
it my responsibility to like get those people ready for
Well, if
like,
they're paying you, yes.
the possible
That is your responsibility.
Hmm.
You would be remiss in your duties and obligations as an instructor if you didn't beat them as hard as you possibly could. I would be upset if I were a student paying and not getting the maximum beating that I had paid for. What we should do also is a drill where we choke ourselves.
Oh, judo does that.
Don't do that. That is a bad idea.
I think it's hilarious. Getting a bunch of people where it's like their second day learning judo. The university class at IU.
They choke themselves out?
No, they partner up. They line up. They each get deep cross collar chokes, and 1, 2, 3 go, and they both choke until either someone.
There is a
lets go.
video. I don't know where I saw it, but it's a video. It's a black belt. I think they're masters division.
Do they both go out?
The guy comes in. They're standing. He gets one grip, second grip,
Uh-huh.
and then he just holds on to it. And the guy's like trying to do stuff and try to get away. But he stands with him. He's trying to break those grips, and the other guy never gets it close. He just is up here, and he chokes him from there.
Yeah.
And that's it. He taps after like 30 seconds.
Yeah. I love it.
Don't let that no matter what, do not let the second hand go in.
Yeah.
Don't let the second hand go in.
Yeah. But no one plays that game anymore, so like hardly. Ever
Some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I really enjoy a good cross collar standing, because they're expecting you to like try and take them down,
Yes.
and they're like, they have all these expectations, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do some judo, and you just,
Maybe a collar drag.
Yeah, just
maybe
like,
some sort of like Tayatoshi or something.
and you can like maybe try those things, but then always just like keep an eye out for that second collar, because if you can get it.
A lot of people don't. I don't think they think that is even a possibility.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why it works.
The guy was a black belt. And they weren't small. They were definitely like heavyweights.
Yeah.
Or maybe light heavies. But I was surprised he didn't try to like pull guard. Like get your legs like on his hips, right? Like
Yeah.
I was just confused as to why he didn't at least try to bring him to a guard, to like arm lock him, something.
Yeah.
It was bad. I mean, maybe that still wouldn't have worked, but I'm like, look, if you can't break his grips in 5 or 10 seconds, right? Like you're not going to beat him with arms.
The reason most people don't do it is because the traditional response is to flying armbar you, right? Because you're like committing both arms to your collar or to my collars. I just clamp, I jump. The arms are going to still be there when I hit the ground, and great.
Or if they're not, he's going to let go, and you've pulled guard, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Right?
But sometimes, I don't know.
I think he thought, hey, I can break these grips.
Yeah.
This is BS. This guy is just messing with me.
Yeah.
And the dude was, he was a strong dude.
Yeah. I remember like a lot of times where I'll be rolling with someone, and they get something, and I'm just like, this ain't shit. And then, and then it gradually becomes more and more shit, and then it's like worse and worse. But yeah.
Well, you have to work. I mean, what I'm always on the lookout for is there's always that person who can take something that is unconventional, or what's the word what's the word I'm looking for? Not conventional, unorthodox. But they're so good at it. You think it's garbage, and you think like, oh, I passed this type of guard, or like this person has this Kimura on me, and 99% of the time from the guard, people pass Kimuras.
Yeah.
But there's always that person who that's their thing, and once they lock on you, you're cooked.
Yeah.
It's you shouldn't let somebody do that stuff to you with the assumption that you can just get out of it.
Yeah. I mean,
That is a dangerous game to play, especially when you don't know that person, you don't know what their game is.
depends.
Yeah, it depends. But there are those people who that is their thing, right? Like most people, they put me in a Kimura from the guard or wherever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, if you put me in Kimura from the guard, it's going to be really hard to get out. I'm probably going to get my back taken.
I've got a Kimura from bottom side control. That'll get most people.
Yeah.
Once.
Well, that's the thing. It only takes once.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden it messes up your game because now you're like, oh, I don't want to go that way anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Oh. Those are not fun.
What else should we talk about?
Your favorite cartoon growing up. What's your favorite cartoon? I don't know.
Probably Batman animated series.
What's it?
The Batman animated series.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was dark.
Yeah.
A Dark Knight.
And like filmed on dark, not paper, but whatever it was.
Film.
Yeah. Not
Whatever.
film. Whatever the word is. Yeah, it was dark.
Media. Dark media stuff. Dark media animation stuff.
Yeah, and the theme song was killer. I really liked it. I don't know, I was always into superheroes as a kid.
Who wasn't?
I don't know. People who didn't grow up to do jiu-jitsu. I first heard about jiu-jitsu from Batman comics.
Because he did jujitsu?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so.
I remember I used to watch the Batman live action, and they did like judo stuff in there.
Yeah.
And judo was big back in the 70s. There were a lot of like comedies, like sitcoms that had some sort of like you'd have an episode where somebody does a judo throw on somebody. You know, I always thought like that was super cool. But of course, there was no judo where I was living, so I never really got to do any of that stuff. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we had karate. There was a judo dojo near my.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I didn't know what it was, so I didn't do it.
You're like, well, the thing is like, in judo, when you're a kid, it's not as cool because you don't get the weapon. There's no weapons on the wall, right? There's no weapons training. The weapons training to me was the coolest thing to any martial arts when I was a kid.
Weapons training was okay, but yeah, I would say that the deal breaker was you weren't allowed to learn jump flying side kicks.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do.
For sure. The jump flying side kicks. Yeah. I wanted to do the dim mock. I wanted to do like the one touch, paralyzation techniques. That's what I wanted.
And actually, I think the first time I saw a Gracie was in the 2008 Hulk movie.
Really?
Did you ever see it with, what's his name from Fight Club? Skinny guy?
Brad Pitt?
The other one.
Ed Norton?
Yeah. He's in Brazil, right? And he's like in the favelas, like running away from people.
Oh, yeah.
And like part of his like.
That was the first time you ever saw Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah.
In the Hulk movie? That was like in the 90s.
No. It came out in like 2008 or something. But,
2008?
Yeah, but he like goes into this place and he's like learning from Hickson. And Hickson's in there like meditating with him.
No, is that really in the movie?
Yeah, and he's like doing all this weird stuff with his stomach, like digesting acai.
No, it's like a muscle thing.
Yeah, and he's like, they're both.
That was
like,
Hicks and Gracie? For real? In that movie?
And like
No.
they're both like meditating.
How did I not know that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Serious.
You're pulling my. This is the whole
like,
movie?
Yeah. With Edward Norton. Like he's like teaching him how to remain calm. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I start at university and go to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu club
And it was just like
we've
that, right?
never done any sitting like this. We've never done any like stomach undulations. I don't think that's the word, but
Undulations, that's a great word.
nice.
This is unreal. I did not know this. Look at this.
Yeah.
You are right. If you've seen the 2008 version of The Incredible Hulk, you may have recognized a familiar face from the Jiu-Jitsu world. Indeed, Hicks and Gracie himself makes an appearance in the movie, most notably teaching Bruce Banner his famous breathing techniques. Wow. Now, does Norton do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I don't believe so.
I don't know how you could be a martial arts aficionado and not do Jiu-Jitsu. Like, I don't mean like you have to go quit everything and become a black belt, but like how do you like, no, I love martial arts, but I'm not gonna do.
There's a very, I don't know. There's a thing I think from traditional martial arts that appeals to people that Jiu-Jitsu distinctly lacks. And
You mean effectiveness?
no,
The fact that
has a lot of
Jiu-Jitsu
that.
is effective?
I think it's
We don't use a lot of chi. We talk about invisible Jiu-Jitsu, which I think is just another way of talking about chi.
kind of. It's like there's a less emphasis on like, I don't know, I don't want to say spiritual, but like I feel like traditional martial arts, there was kind of a mysticism kind of aspect to it. Like the idea that if you kept training and learned long enough, you like unlock secrets.
Yes.
And
That's true. That's true in Jiu-Jitsu. We unlock secrets.
yeah, but like bigger secrets, secrets that are beyond.
Yeah, we do that. That happens. We talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that that's
It's not something that's in the marketing.
It's not. Yeah, it's not focused upon. Versus like Bruce Lee, that used to be like his thing, right? Like his whole idea was like there is no true one technique. There is no like when you do something,
That is false.
you're not doing a
The
technique.
true one technique is the rear naked choke. Everyone knows that, Kevin.
Sure. But like the idea of like moving like water, I think is the exact opposite of what Jiu-Jitsu teaches in their marketing, where like technique conquers all. You know, versus just like flow will kind of be all you need. I don't know. It's more of a.
I mean, if you look at Hickson, Hickson was more of the flowy,
yeah.
right? I mean, you can learn the techniques, but the technique, it's like anything, right? Like if I give you a paintbrush and all the technique and all the paint and everything,
Yeah.
right? And then I give someone else who's like studied art for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I give them just a couple of basic things, and like, you know, they're going to come out with something that's probably a lot more impressive than the amateur who has all the greatest tools at their disposal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think jiu-jitsu, same thing, right? You have guys who, you know, old school guys, guys who's been training for a long time. They can do one thing, two things, like the cross choke.
Yeah.
You know, like you run into guys, and if they get one hit in the collar, you are in for the fight of your life at best. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, this idea of, I agree that the idea of technique conquers all in a way,
Yeah.
but it's technique in the hands of someone who is very skilled with that
But
tool.
I disagree because like the main focus of the marketing and
Oh, no, marketing, you're right. Yeah, marketing,
like
you're right.
with the marketing, it's like with the tools that we can give you, you don't have to become connected to your body in order to be able to use them. You don't have to be athletic. You don't have to be.
Well, that was true. That was true. I
With
think
our
that's true
system, we can make up these deficits that you have. Your complete inability to control yourself when you move physically.
Well, in defense, partial defense of that marketing, is that it was always posed as you versus someone who had no training.
Yes.
Or little or minimal training.
Yes.
So it was never come learn jiu-jitsu and, you know, with a few of our specialized techniques, you'll be able to defeat any person regardless of their training. And so as time has gone by, you know, when you're training with other people that actually have done jiu-jitsu for as long or longer, you realize like it becomes less about the particular techniques that people are using and more about how they're, like the skill with which they are using those techniques, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do agree with you that people are never told like, hey, listen, if you really want to be good at jiu-jitsu, you know, you have to train a lot.
Yeah, you can't sell that. Like there's.
It's hard work, and you know, like skill acquisition, like anything else, is like it's meteoric in the beginning when you're training, but then it slows down, and you know, for most people, not everybody. I mean, some people know how to hack it, so
I mean,
you know, for themselves anyway.
I guess it's nice that you can kind of, you know that you're not going to be bottlenecked by technique, right? At this point, there's so much technique out there that there shouldn't be anything that you can't look up if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. But
well, it's one of those things where you see people who are very good at, I mean, who are perfect with their technique, and then it comes down to execution.
yeah,
Right? I mean, if someone executes just their pass a little bit better than you're executing your guard, then, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a failure of technique per se, it's a failure of execution.
maybe. There is this idea though, like if you just knew one more thing about
Yes.
the situation.
Well, this was the old, or maybe it's still somewhat current, but the old idea of that there was, you know, people had secret techniques, and you know, if you just learn that one little thing that you know, that counter,
Yeah.
and I think that there is truth to that, but it also means perfect execution, and the better the person is at executing their technique, you know, the better you have to be at executing the counter, or the defense, or whatever it is. It's not like you play a card, or you make a move on a chessboard, and I just can study the board and then make my move, right? Like.
Yeah, but it's also not like you hit your technique button and the technique function runs.
Yes,
and
I did my combo, and then if you can like jam me or something with you know some
my block counter,
whatever it is.
Yeah. Balance, probably somewhere in between, like having the necessary knowledge and then being able to execute. That's so unhealthily vague.
Well, I just think it's, you know, you can have all the instruction, and you can have all the tools at your disposal, but like the skill and the discretion with which you use these techniques and tools only comes with experience.
Yeah.
And there's no, I mean, I guess athleticism might be one way to bridge that experience gap, but you know, experience is experience, and it's hard to.
But isn't athleticism experience? Like, your level of athleticism is like the time you have spent as an athlete doing athlete things, right? It's not all just like raw physical power.
Well,
it's like intuition is part of it.
You know, I think of things like, you can imagine somebody, I mean, I've trained with people who are strong enough that they can, like you were talking about the guy who at high rollers who picked a dude up and threw him, right? Like, now, you can execute a very technical defense to an arm lock attempt from the guard, right? And if you are not very athletic, or even if you are athletic, you can execute that very technical defense or counter, whatever it is, right? Or if you're just a beast, you just pick the dude up and like chuck him across the room.
Yeah.
Now, that's athleticism that's making up for maybe experience.
Is it like? But what if your experience says that this is a good idea, and it was for the guy who won the match?
Well, maybe I'm not being specific enough about what I mean by experience. I mean experience in terms of like actually using technique, right? So like the guy who comes to mind is Nicky Rodriguez, right? He's a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience. He has a lot of wrestling experience, which I'm not discounting, but jiu-jitsu wise, he has a limited number of years. Now he has trained with very good people, some of the top guys in the sport. So it's not like he's getting kind of a crash course. He's not like just some guy who walks off the street and who's just a beast and wrestled for a couple of years. I mean, he's been exposed to the best guys in the world, or some of the best guys in the world. You know, but when he's competing, you know, you don't see a lot of technical proficiency, shall we say. You see a lot of explosive movements that will make, this is my point, he's using his explosiveness and his athleticism, right, to make up for the technical gap.
All right, so
and then the people that he's like brutalizing, right, very often, they're trying, like Cyborg, for example, I think he beat, right, at Abu Dhabi. You know, he's using, you know, he's certainly a very athletic person, but he's in the twilight of his career. He's using a lot more experience in terms of dealing with. He's just not out athleticizing Nicky Rodriguez.
Do you think that's experience, or do you think he just like can't?
Well, I don't think he. If he just tried to match athleticism with Nicky Rodriguez, I mean, which he. If I recall that match, I mean, it was he's an athletic. I'm not saying like he's not an athletic person. I just think that's, you know, he's got to employ or deploy more technical responses.
I just feel like
you can't keep that pace.
There is a technicality to athleticism, right? Like if you could take two of the same size guys, like same like raw, like cross section muscular strength, and if one has experienced deadlifting, that like experienced deadlifter is going to be able to lift more weight than the unexperienced person.
True.
Right? So like, despite that, like when you just look at it, it just looks like you're being strong.
Well, he is being strong. He's trained a sport that requires
that
raw
sport,
strength.
that sport requires technique in order to be that strong. You can't be that strong without being technical with your own body.
Well, if you can lift, like so, let's say if you're deadlift, I don't know what the max deadlifter or what average deadlifters do at a given weight class, right? Let's say it's 400 pounds. Is that a good deadlift? I don't know.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I mean, if you're 200 pounds, should you be able to deadlift 400?
Oh.
You don't know. Let's just assume for the sake of argument that, you know, if you're 200 pounds, you should probably be able to deadlift twice your weight. I don't know if that's true.
What do you mean, like with training or without training?
With training.
Okay, yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a certain position I have to be in, right? I have to like get my legs, my hips, everything in alignment.
Yeah.
There's a technique to deadlift.
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm not saying that you can't, I mean, you're taking a very specific example. I'm just saying somebody, maybe they're not trained. They're just like, whatever. They're just a strong dude. They're just like big and strong.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know jiu-jitsu. They don't know anything like special about lifting per se. They're not like a technical person. They like to go to the gym and, you know, bang out a couple of deadlift or, you know, bench presses and some squats, and they just want to get, you know, they want to get some serious mass, as they say. And that guy can come in and he can just like smash, you know, his way through a lot of people, right?
I would say like if a person who lifts, maybe not religiously, but who is interested in getting good at lifting, as they lift, they develop a better connection to their body, and they're able like.
I'm not saying those people don't have skill. What I'm saying is their skill is not a jiu-jitsu skill.
I think it is completely.
It's not. No, it's not. I'm not saying that it's not applicable to jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay.
We don't like. This is how maybe I'll try to define it. We don't have people doing deadlifts in the gym for jiu-jitsu.
I just showed you a video. I didn't show you a video of the guy deadlifting the guy up.
Yeah, but we don't teach that. That is not a taught skill in jiu-jitsu. We don't. I've never seen anybody in any say, okay, this is how you lift them. When you're in arm lock, you're going to lift them over your head and you're going to like cast them like a.
No, but we are taught, hey, this is a thing that could happen, and when that happens, you scoop the leg, right? So by that assumption,
yes,
that lifting happens in jiu-jitsu because we teach the defense.
Yeah, but we don't teach that as the counter per se.
We are teaching that as the counter because if you're teaching the defense, you're normalizing the offensive technique. You're saying people do this, so
untrained people.
That guy.
I mean, the fact is, like lifting. So in most jiu-jitsu tournaments, that is illegal.
But it wasn't in that.
No, but what I'm saying, my point is that in most jiu-jitsu tournaments, you are not allowed to slam somebody.
I've been
so as a result, if we were allowed to slam people, like a fight to win, you can slam people. I think more jiu-jitsu schools would teach it, but it's not something we teach.
You know, I've been in academies where the rule is if you can lift them up above your like shoulders or waist or something, that's an automatic tap. Don't slam them. Put them down gently. You win.
That's a good rule.
It's
I like that rule.
Like, because it's practical. Like you shouldn't assume that the person's gonna not pick you up. And
look, I agree. All I'm saying is that you can. There have been many instances where the person has very minimal jiu-jitsu skill. They make up for it with their raw athleticism.
But I think part of
that's not to say they can't have trained their athleticism by getting strong or whatever. But it's just that it's not jiu-jitsu skill.
I think it is like part of the jiu-jitsu skill is developing the level of athleticism beyond what you had been when you started, right? Like
maybe
by doing techniques, you connect yourself to your body like
I have never seen anyone teach the lift them up in the air. I've never seen anyone teach. I can't think of one instructional.
I can.
Where who was it? Who taught?
Oh, not instructional, but like definitely it's like taught.
I'm saying instructional. I'm saying like
I don't-
anyone, like
I don't
any,
watch
even the biggest
instructionals.
bruisers, you know, in jiu-jitsu. I've never seen Buchecha say, "Oh, and then when they tried to do the arm lock to me, I picked them up and slammed them." No,
Really?
never.
Someone's totally done that. I
Maybe
remember
Cyborg.
Cyborg maybe.
But no, not even Cyborg is
Paul
hyper
Harris
technical.
probably.
Not even Paul. I don't know if Paul Harris has an instructional other than, you know, don't stop when they tap.
Both knees. Like it's.
I mean, I agree with you that like developing your athleticism is something that you should do in jiu-jitsu.
And it will happen.
And it is good for you, right? And just part, like, the top jiu-jitsu athletes are all incredible athletes, right? Like, you know, like they are athletic, strong, explosive guys and women. But what I'm saying is that is when you talk about just the everyday,
Yeah.
you know, jiu-jitsu, you know, because it goes to your point. It goes to your point of like, what's marketing? What's marketed is technique conquers all. It's not like, hey, so wrestling's different because wrestling, there's a real emphasis on getting very strong, very explosive.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that is, when you talk to wrestlers about how they train, or how they, you know, go about becoming a good wrestler, a lot of them are like, I mean, and you look at them and they're like,
Yeah, judo does like throws on trees and stuff, and they're all tough. I get it. Like, I just
jiu-jitsu prides itself on the nerdiest guys winning
I understand,
competitions.
I love that aspect of it. But like, what I don't like is when someone looks at a technique and they're like, oh, that's athletic. Like you'd never be able to do that, even if you.
But that's
tried.
fine, right? Like
But
there's
like, I think that I get that we should always value, not always, but I think we should value technique, but I don't think we should look down upon
I'm not
average
looking down.
people like looking to become more athletic.
I'm not looking, that's not the point I was making.
Don't be and I'm not saying like you're doing this specifically, but this is something that I've noticed in like the culture overall, where it's like, you know, it's that technique isn't as worth learning because it requires a certain level of athleticism. Well, I feel like that the reason you should learn that technique is so that you can become that level of athlete.
Well,
like,
I think a lot of people when they think about when they want to do jiu-jitsu is, and maybe they don't fully understand the point that you're making. I think a lot of people when they walk in the door, they want to walk in the door to learn the technique.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they wanted to just get strong, they would have gone to the gym.
It's not just strong; it's coordination, it's balance.
Yeah, any of that stuff. They would just go to the gym.
But
they would go to a place.
they're in a gym. This
is a jiu-jitsu gym. It's not a real gym.
This is a place to learn how to become coordinated, balanced, and connected.
Like me?
No, like, you know, we're in here exercising. You know, it's not just to learn how to do jiu-jitsu. It's
no, you need to have a level of athletic. You need a level. Look, what we're doing is a physical activity. You need. I mean, the stronger, the more athletic you are, the better you're going to be at it, for sure. I'm not diminishing or dismissing athleticism, right?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that you see athletic people all the time, or bigger people, just big, strong dudes, right? Like for example, I don't want to call anybody out, but like we all have these guys in the gym that are just monsters. They're big dudes. They're not even athletic for their size. They might be, but the fact is that they you can't, if they do this with their arm, you can't you can't straighten it.
But what I hate
and that's not because they're particularly athletic. It's just because they're big.
No, but it's not just because they're big. Like there is a technique to having and controlling a body. Like you look at I see a lot of people who are like.
If I get my 5-year-old daughter, right, and I teach her how to do a perfect arm lock, okay, and I decide that I'm just going to flex, she will never be able to straighten my arm because I am just 10 times bigger than she is. And likewise. There are dudes that are like Shaquille O'Neal. He's 10 times bigger than you. Yeah? If you put him in an arm lock and all you try to, now I know you can do other things, but if you just try to like pry his arm straight, you will not be able to do it.
Wait, how old the daughter? Like 12?
5.
Oh,
my
5?
12-year-old couldn't do it either.
I bet you're like
there is no 12-year-old that I've ever met that could even unlock my arm.
My point is, if your daughter was coordinated enough to where like she was like, if she had been like learning like light deadlifts, where like she was able to actually like use all of her muscles. If she knew how to use all of her muscles.
There is no 12-year-old.
There is a 12-year-old.
There is no 12-year-old that could do that.
You can bench press or curl. I bet she could lift up 50 pounds. 12-year-old could lift 50 pounds.
Not my 12-year-old.
Oh.
Maybe.
I think so.
She could not look. I mean,
If-
she
if
couldn't
she-
get.
if
She
she-
couldn't
no,
get
my
another
point
12-year-old boys in here arm
No,
straight.
that's because they're not coordinated. None of these boys that are in here are like.
No, it's
with
just
the
a question of like,
exception
I'm just bigger and bigger.
No,
I'm
it's
just
not.
bigger. I'm
It's
bigger and
you,
stronger.
You have been using your body for 30 more years than that.
This does not take any athleticism.
No,
There's no
it's
athleticism
not,
to this.
it's not just the
And
muscles.
I'm not strong. Look at my
It's
muscles,
the
Kevin.
nerves.
Kevin,
It's the nerves
it's like
and the
just
brain
smooth. There's not
and
even
the
any
spine.
definition. Look, there's nothing there. Look.
Strength isn't all muscle. Like there's a whole system involved that actually is rather technical if you think about it.
Well, now you're changing the definition of technical.
I'm
Yes, you
no,
can
I'm
explain
trying
it
to tell
technically.
you what I'm talking about. Like when a person is athletic, like it's not just because they're strong as heck. Like
That helps. No, you're right. There are different types of athleticism.
Sometimes it is, but like it's more than that. It's like coordination. It is
Yes,
balance,
I agree.
and that's not just like
I'm not disputing
it's
any
not
of
just
that.
a guy being a Hulk. It's a person who has like thought about like how to move and use their body a lot more than other people have.
Maybe, but that doesn't mean that they're not using that athleticism to make up for their lack of technical ability and knowledge.
No, but I feel
which
like
is my only point.
part of that athleticism is the technique that we're looking to teach in people when we're teaching them jiu-jitsu. It's just that they're already up to that point. And we look at them, we're like, oh, they're just athletic. It's like, no, like you should strive to be that, like at least something like that, where like you can move to that same level of comfort and coordination. Like that's what I think jiu-jitsu training
Maybe
is.
some of them are, well, let me get around. There's obviously a spectrum of athleticism.
Sure.
And there are some guys that are just crazy strong, but they couldn't dribble a basketball,
Sure.
right? And there's
But-
some
but
guys
they
who
could
can
dead-
jump through the ceiling,
Yeah.
and but like Kevin Durant, for example, who's I think is an incredible athlete, but he can't bench press. I mean, he's famously weak on the bench press,
Yeah.
right? But, it helps that he's 7, whatever he
Yeah.
is. But he can drain it from 35, like nothing. Like,
Different
yes,
types of
there are different types of athleticism.
Yeah.
You can cultivate those different, like, being explosive, like an Olympic weightlifter is something that they have to work at for a very long time. I'm not diminishing that athleticism. What I'm saying is I'm contrasting it to actual jiu-jitsu technical ability and knowledge. They're two different things. Now, it's not to say that your technique can't become improved because you are a good athlete, right? Like, there are many people who are incredible athletes and very technical, and they're usually people who are like world champions. That's what it takes to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu. You have to have kind of the whole package.
Yeah.
There's nobody that walks in, this is not what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing at the highest levels. I'm saying like here on a regular old jiu-jitsu school's mat.
Yeah, and my point is like we spend all this time learning how to control other people's bodies. I think it's valuable to spend just as much time learning how to control your own body.
Yes, I don't dispute any of that.
Yeah. Cool. We agree.
But I don't think it's not technique. It's not jiu-jitsu technique.
I think it is.
It can help jiu-jitsu technique. It's a foundation upon which jiu-jitsu technique is built.
Like what do you classify like solo drills? Like when people are doing like the crab walking, movement drills.
Those are movement drills.
Are those?
I mean, they build your coordination within a jiu-jitsu like movement.
Are they part of the jiu-jitsu training process, or
Of
are they
course.
different?
Of course.
I think that's like, I guess that's what I'm talking about. Like that sort of like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking.
I mean, having good
warm-ups.
posture, right? Like if
Warm-ups.
you like being strong, like requires you to have good posture and good body mechanics,
Yeah.
right? And also requires you, to not get injured, right? It's good to have good body mechanics so you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Those are important things. It's part of the technique. Like having good posture is part of good technique.
I think it also helps, like when you become more athletic, it helps you not become a spaz. And isn't that very much frowned upon in jiu-jitsu?
It's different types of athleticism. There are some people who have, that have that level of coordination, but then there are many people who are incredible athletes, but they're also terrible spazzes.
Really?
Yes.
Who are some spaz
I don't want to say any names.
Really? Are you thinking of someone we both know?
Of course, but I could tell you, look, I know lots of guys who are like premier athletes. They're incredible athletes, and they're terrible at jiu-jitsu, despite having trained for a very long time. I remember at Henzo's, you had so many guys in that gym that were like just big and shredded, right? And you would look at them, and there's an old saying, right? Like, I'm sure people have heard this before, built like Tarzan, fight like Jane, right? And, you learn, this is one of the cool things about jiu-jitsu in my mind, is that you should never make an assumption about somebody based on their physical appearance. Because, it's safe. If you look at the big, shredded guy, it's probably pretty safe to assume like that guy's pretty athletic.
I
whatever.
bet he likes lifting weights.
Yeah, right? But not necessarily,
You never know.
right? And you look at the schlumpy guy over in the corner who doesn't look like much of anything.
I bet I could beat him up.
But you're gonna get wrecked.
Yeah.
Eventually that's not gonna go well for you,
Yeah.
right? And it goes back to the whole thing of like, jiu-jitsu celebrates the nerds winning, right? Or the nerdy looking guys.
Yes. Hoist Gracie, the original nerd.
I don't know if I would ever classify him as a nerd. I always thought he was kind of a badass, like when I first saw him. But if you look at like Ryan Hall, who kind of revels in it.
Ryan Hall is for sure.
You know, even guys like, I don't think the Mendez brothers are particularly nerdy. And I mean, they're badass too, but I think they kind of, sometimes they're a little precious with their grooming habits. And
What do you mean? What?
I mean, they have the very coiffed hair, and they're a little.
Why do you know this much information about the Mendez brothers? Do you know how they get ready?
I guess they groom themselves. They're very well groomed.
Well, you seem like very knowledgeable of their.
I mean, I've seen the photographs.
Really?
Well, the photograph of the famous thing where they have like the 5 bodybuilders that are all giant and like roided out, and then you have like, you have Ryan Hall, and then you have the Mendez brothers, walking their poodle or whatever it is, who would win in the fight, like.
I
you know what the meme I'm talking about, right?
I haven't seen it, but I understand. Yeah.
I mean, but it is true that just because you were a big person or you're all cut up or whatever, I mean, that doesn't always translate.
Who was the guy? Shamrock.
He was pretty good. I mean,
that was
Frank or Ken?
There were 2 of them?
Yeah, they were like, I think they were adopted. That's why they don't look like each other.
The first one.
Ken.
Yeah. That was like.
Against Hoist.
Yeah.
And he was like He-Man. He looked like the He-Man action figure.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god.
He's gonna kill him. He's gonna break him in half. Like Chemo is the same thing.
Yeah.
Like jiu-jitsu is kind of built on this kind of mismatch idea.
Yeah.
And when it's a person who doesn't train, it kind of works.
Yeah, and as long as they don't have a friend, it's fine. Just don't get soccer people.
I mean, I think if someone had actually pulled Dan Severn aside, I mean, he was a decorated wrestler. He was a legit guy.
Like,
if they were just like, okay, don't let him wrap his legs around your arms or your head, I think he would have just murdered Royce, Same thing with Chemo, right? Hey, Chemo, maybe you want to cut your little top knot off because that's probably something he'll hold on to.
Yeah.
If he didn't have that top knot, I think Chemo probably would have killed Royce in the cage.
It's like he grabbed and punched, right? Or was it knees?
He had him in I think he had him in a triangle and he held his hair.
God.
To close the triangle, and I think he switched off to an armbar.
I don't get anyone who, like, if you're doing an NHB contest, like.
Well, they didn't know back then. And let me tell you something.
That was like.
Look, you got to give Hoist credit. If I climbed into the cage with Chemo, and I grabbed onto his hair, if he just did this, I'd probably fly across the room.
Maybe.
If anybody had the chutzpah to grab onto his little top knot, I'm sure they were quickly. Separated from their arms or something.
I'm really sad he didn't take the belt off and strap.
He became a black belt eventually, right? He trained jiu-jitsu, Chemo. Became a black belt, slimmed down, got off the sauce.
Which sauce?
The special sauce, the A1 sauce.
A1. Isn't special sauce mayo, ketchup, mustard? Maybe a little mustard.
Are you talking about McDonald's special sauce? I think it's like ranch dressing, isn't it?
Or like Thousand Island, I don't know.
Oh.
I just remember when I started lifting, it was after I'd started training.
Yes.
I was like a blue belt, and I was like, real people do real lifts. So I was like, I'm gonna start squatting, deadlifting, and
Your jiu-jitsu probably improved a lot.
OHB, overnight.
No, being a good athlete is helpful to any kind of sport, right?
But it wasn't just like I started hulking out on everyone. It was just like all of a sudden I didn't get folded up as much. Like it was just like.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You're able to, your frames get a lot stronger because you have more support, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I don't know. I think that's important. It's valuable.
No, I'm definitely not disputing that. I mean, all the top guys are really good athletes.
And but part of my favorite jiu-jitsu experience was when everything started coming together. Like when I started getting into shape, I started knowing things that worked. And then all of a sudden it was like, you know that the scene in Spider-Man where he like starts to figure out that he has powers?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
It's the coolest feeling in the world. And I think everybody, if they have a chance, should like have it.
Yeah, no, it's
great.
yeah, it's fine. It's definitely part and parcel. I think it's difficult if you don't have that. I think it's hard to progress very far.
What do you mean? I didn't have it. Like this isn't. I haven't been this forever.
No, I'm saying it's hard if you don't have like you need to have some, I would say, minimal level of physical athleticism.
Everyone starts at zero though. Like
that's not true.
that is true.
No, there's a lot of people come in that are
no like
0 plus 10 or 0 like. People come in with a different athletic background.
But even those athletic people used to be not athletic. You know,
no,
like,
that's not true either.
That is true.
I mean, I recall in school there were the kids that were the stronger kids, that
Yeah,
were the bigger kids.
Those
that
kids
were,
used to not be strong.
No, they were always the biggest and strongest kids. Like the kid who was in 4th grade, who was the biggest kid,
Yeah.
very
Used to
often
not
will
be
wind up
strong.
being the biggest kid in high school.
Yeah, but like that
Like
kid
humans
still-
have different
but
levels.
that
Some
kid-
people, not everyone starts at 0.
Yeah,
Not everyone
everyone
starts at 0.
starts at
No,
0. Everyone
no,
starts at
no
0.
one starts at
That's
0.
how
Otherwise, you
being-
wouldn't be able to do anything.
That's how being a human being works. Like
No,
you start at
wrong.
being helpless and weak,
No,
and
you
then
can go.
eventually.
Look, you can go to any sports field,
Uh-huh.
any mat,
Uh-huh.
anywhere,
Uh-huh.
right? Any dance studio.
Uh-huh.
You can go to any a track, anywhere in the country,
Athletic
and you
dance.
put up 100 kids
Uh-huh.
of the same age.
Uh-huh.
You could get down to the month,
Yeah.
right? You could say, okay, everyone was born so and so, this date, this time, whatever it is, however you want to control.
Uh-huh.
And there will be a kid who's faster than everyone else.
Uh-huh.
Right? And you could do that from you take a baby. When did that baby start crawling? There's a baby that crawled before all the other babies at a particular age, right? That baby is more athletic than all the other babies.
Well, you're just saying that like this baby that crawls particularly
Yes.
fast is just like
Yes.
that's just an athletic baby?
It is, yes.
But what do you mean an athletic baby? Crawling isn't an athletic
Yeah,
baby.
well, yes, it is.
No, it's not.
You
Like,
try crawling when you have no idea
I'm
what
not
you're
saying
doing.
it's not difficult, but it's not athletic. Like it's,
Everyone's born with a different kind of like potential. Yes, of course. I don't have the potential to. I have a potential to be in the NBA, but it's a very low potential, right?
But you have
as opposed to the kid who was 6'5". The kid who has the genetics to
But
be
everyone
6'5"
has
has
the
a greater potential.
Everyone has the potential.
No, that's not true.
You're saying greater potential, so everyone has the potential.
I mean, look, if you're going to be 5'10" in the NBA, you got to have the ability to
I'm
do
just
some
saying-
other very special things,
I'm just- if
right?
you're
And so
doing
I'm
jujitsu-
not saying that if you're 5'10", you can't be in the NBA or you can't be an NFL quarterback or you can't do whatever it is that
Sure.
you think. But if that's what you're at, 5'10" is your max height,
Yeah.
you better be like Muggsy Bogues, like super skilled in a lot of other things in order to get to that next level.
But we're not
And if you
talking
don't,
about
no, it's
people-
just potential, right? Like you have to have the ability. Like Muggsy Bogues he was a great athlete.
Sure.
A great athlete.
Sure.
And he was, I don't know if he was even 5'10".
And you think that was just natural talent, not hard work?
Oh yeah, hard work for sure.
Okay, so
But
like
I
hard work.
I do not have, and nor did I ever have as much athletic potential in me as Muggsy Bogues. No,
Yes.
of course not. Of course not.
How can you even go about proving that? We're like, we can't go
Because-
back in time, put you on the same track as what's his name,
I can,
and
I
then,
can
and then
promise.
just like no,
I can,
you
no,
can't.
no, listen, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. This is how I prove it,
Sure.
right? I don't know what Muggsy Bogues' athletic career was like,
Uh-huh.
right? I don't have it at the top of my head, but I rest assured
Uh-huh.
that he was probably the best basketball player
Mhm.
on the court
Okay.
in most of the games he was in high school.
Okay.
I don't know about college because I don't know where he played or what league he was in or whatever, but he was certainly one of the best, or else he wouldn't have been drafted into the NBA.
Uh-huh.
I played basketball,
Uh-huh.
and do you want to know where I was on the court?
Sure.
Not the best person, not even close to the best person,
Yeah.
not even the best person on the bench.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So you had no reason to follow your potential.
No, it was very clear at the moment that I was sitting on the bench and playing. I would play, I would practice. It wasn't like I didn't play or practice as much as anybody else.
Sure.
I played a lot of basketball in high school. I love basketball. That was my favorite first sport love, right? I played basketball all day, all night. I did the thing with the shoes to try to get better at jumping.
Mm-hmm.
I did plyometrics. I did everything, right? And there's a certain point where you're just like, you can get incrementally better,
Uh-huh.
but you're never going to break through,
Yeah.
right, to the starting position. Right, just the starting position on a pretty, mean, my high school basketball team was actually pretty good. There were D1 athletes on that. We had like 3 or 4 D1 level athletes on the basketball team. I played against them all the time. Pickup, not in the league, obviously. There's no question, you know, like Clay Buckley, he was not the greatest basketball player, but he was 6'10". He went to Duke, right? He was on the national championship teams with Duke. He sat the bench the whole time. He was the Central League Player of the Year, I think, 3 or 4 years that he played. He was a big white stiff. He was 6'10", right? Super smart guy. Randy Stover, who actually went to D2, he played for Philadelphia Textile. I mean, he was 6'4", 6'5". You know, like, he's unguardable. I mean, for me, like, if I ever picked him up, unguardable, I couldn't guard him. He'd just shoot. I mean, even if he didn't want to just drive by me and dunk, he'd just, like, pull up and shoot it from 30 feet. Amazing. Dane Watts, another guy, he went to Penn, right? Awesome, very nice person. Actually, was good friends with his little brother. I mean, another guy, he played for Penn. He was amazing. You know, you look around, you say, like, it doesn't matter how hard I work. I will never be even at the, and these guys didn't go on. They didn't go to the pros. They weren't superstars even in college. Although Randy Stover, I think, was the Division II Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Offensive Player of the Year. He was very, very good. So, I mean, I have a level of comparison.
What if you had
you know, like I mean, I know that's anecdotal, and it's just my personal thing.
What if you took like a team of people and helped you?
It would not have mattered.
You don't think so?
I mean,
so we get a person to come in, fix your diet. We come in, fix up how you're exercising. We get like a sports psychologist.
You know you can't teach.
We get a sports psychologist to come in and fix your like mental game, right? We get a team of people to fix you up.
I had a friend of mine.
You can probably get you to
his nickname was Bink, and Bink, he lived the dream, right? Bink was a little bit. He was maybe 6 foot tall. Yeah, and he was very good. He worked super hard, and he was that kid. He was the kid that like was like, I'm gonna play basketball in college no matter what, right? I'm gonna work hard all the time. He was a good athlete. He worked super hard. You know, he was the kid. I think if he was the closest analog to myself. I don't even think I was as good as he was, but if there's an example I could give you from my own personal experience, I may have, if I sold out like Bink did, and I think Bink went to some D3 school somewhere, played college basketball. That was his dream. But I mean, that was the end, right? Like he sat the bench at some D3 school.
Again, like
we're originally talking
about normal people, right? Like
yeah.
So I'm talking about
a normal person.
For a normal person to reach a normal level of athleticism, right? The ability to do a pull-up.
No, what you were saying what you were saying was that everyone starts at zero and we all have
everyone does start at zero.
No, that's not true. Kobe Bryant,
when
Kobe Bryant was in high school.
Take 2 babies. They have the same level of basketball knowledge, of jiu-jitsu knowledge. Like
true. But one is a better athlete than the other.
What are you talking about?
One is stronger, one is bigger, one has more potential.
No, they're both babies.
And one has more genetic potential to be something.
How do you know?
Because this is true of all babies.
All babies have
different,
genes.
Unless they're even twins.
And
even twins have different potential.
Genes have different. Babies have different genes. Genes have different potential. You're not going to be able to tell who has what.
No, I didn't say you could predict. I said one will be stronger. One will be a better athlete.
You can't predict.
Well, but you know what? I mean, maybe if you just look at them lying in their cribs. But if I look at their parents and they were both Olympic athletes, you know what? And the other were like non-athletic.
You think that's purely genetic?
I didn't say it was purely genetic, but if I had to hazard a guess, the kid who got the Olympic athletes as parents, probably going to be more athletic.
Probably going to be more athletic.
I would be willing to bet.
I bet if you switch those kids, the second kid would still be more athletic than the first one. If you switch the babies, the new baby raised by those people.
Well, I'm talking about potential.
Yeah, potential. Like if you switch those babies,
I don't know.
probably
I don't know
have
if that's true.
potential.
I think if one grows up to be bigger, right, is stronger. Some people are stronger than others.
Strongness comes from
it's like a seed, right?
But it comes from food.
It's like
it comes from rest. It comes from care.
You have 2 seeds, right? They're both very small.
Sure. Are they mustard seeds?
Huh?
Are we growing our faith today?
One is an acorn, and the other one is
say it, mustard seed.
Whatever seed. I don't know. Not an acorn.
Okay.
Right. One is going to grow up to be an oak tree. The other one will be something smaller.
No, one of them.
Let's say one's. How about this one?
One of them might, if you care for
one's
it,
a
if you
red
feed
one.
it, if you water it, if it's in the correct environment, it will grow.
The environment plays an important role. You're right.
An important role.
It does.
The environment is the entire role of a person's
I'm saying if you take the kids, everything being equal, there are kids that are going to be better than other kids. That's true. You can look at any playing field and you can say that kid's one
I
of the best
disagree.
athletes on the field.
Fundamentally, I believe that if you take any baby, and you put it in the correct environment, you will get.
What you will get is you will get closer to that baby's or that person's ultimate
What does
potential.
that even mean? Ultimate potential for a human being. What does that mean?
It means how tall you're
How
going to be.
tall you are, that's your potential?
It's part of your potential. If we're talking about sports,
Okay.
you can talk about how naturally muscular you're going to be.
Oh,
You're gonna talk about like what the fibers in your muscles, what they're made up of.
those are determined by environment. That's like
Yeah,
what
but
you
also
eat
by
and like
also
how
by your
you behave.
genetics. Also by your genetics. Some people are born skinny. Some people are born stocky. There's no like you can like kind of guide people, but genetics is
People are
genetics. You
born
can only go
skinny
so
and
far.
stocky, not based on their genes, but based on how much the mother ate. If the mother
Could
was a
be,
meth
yeah,
addict,
that's
it's
true
going to be
too.
a skinny baby.
That's true. Yes,
the baby
you're right.
doesn't have
You're
meth
right. If
genes.
the Olympic athlete's mother or the Olympic athlete is now a meth addict, that kid's probably going to grow up behind the 8 ball. Probably
Yeah.
not going to reach their full
Not as
athletic
great.
potential. That's not my point.
That's the
My point is that if you
environment.
go to any field, any athletic endeavor, and you look at 100 kids all the same age,
Yeah.
you'll be able to pick out the ones that are the better athletes than
Sure.
the others. Yes,
I
and you can
agree
go
with
all the way back down to like you look at
To
a
babies.
first grade. I mean, babies are silly, but there are babies that walk. I mean, so the thing is with the babies walking and talking is that doesn't always predict their
Yeah.
ultimate athletic potential.
Okay, and neither
So
does
that's
it
why I
for
didn't start with the
adults.
babies. You brought the babies.
Yeah, but like
What I'm
honestly,
saying,
that's the
what
same
I'm
for
saying is
adults.
if you take it this is because this is the idea of like every organized like on a national level sport,
Sure.
they try to identify promising kids at a very early age.
Yeah, but we're
So
not. We're talking
why
about
do they do
normal
that?
people.
How do they do that? Do they just say does Barcelona?
They don't
do
look
they
at
just
their-
look around and say, you know what, just send us 50
They
little
don't.
babies
They don't
because
look at their parents and be like,
Yes,
"Oh,
they do.
they were athletes.
Yes,
or
they
they were
do.
athletes."
Yes,
Oh.
they do.
No,
You know
they,
what? With
they
these
make
youth-
them run. They
these
look at the
youth
people
development
play.
programs,
Like,
you know what they
sure,
do?
if your kid or if your dad's like Michael Jordan, they're probably gonna look at you more than the next guy.
Yeah, why?
But like,
Why?
because
if
Michael
genetics
Jordan.
doesn't matter,
No,
why would
but-
you look at Michael Jordan's kid?
Because it's Michael Jordan.
So what?
Because it's Michael Jordan.
Isn't Michael Jordan's kid a zero like every other kid?
No, like Michael Jordan is probably gonna yell at his kid until he's good at basketball, because that's who Michael Jordan is.
Michael Jordan's kid did play basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't do so great.
Well, it's probably because Michael Jordan yelled at him so much.
So why would you want to? So why would you want to identify?
Because people would
No,
expect that
no,
the kid of
they-
Michael
look,
Jordan,
look,
not
look.
because of Michael's genes,
Look.
like was Michael's dad, was
Every
Michael's
sport,
dad good at basketball?
every
I
sport.
don't know.
I don't think so. I think
I don't think
he's
so.
probably got his athleticism from his mom. But every organized sport like soccer, even jiu-jitsu now, they look at kids, right? And they don't just say, "Hey, just send me any old kid because I'm such a good coach that I can turn any piece of wood into gold." No, what they say is, "Send us your most promising kid." And you know, if you're talking about soccer like Barcelona, they're bringing like 8-year-olds up.
Yeah.
They're not being like, oh, any old 8-year-old, just find one off the street. They could have just gone outside to the street and picked up an 8-year-old right there. No, they're like,
They
which
pick
8-year-old shows the most promise?
The most promise, and
Yeah.
the other kids have like the same, not the same amount of potential.
They do not have the same most
According to you,
They don't.
I disagree though. Like I believe that a person is like there's an element of like redemptibility. Like if you take a person, you can look at their flaws and then like fix them over time. You know,
Yeah,
if you're not athletic,
look,
you can become
here's the thing,
athletic.
right.
If you're not smart, you can become
No.
smart.
Well,
If
don't get me
you're-
started
if
on
you're not
intelligence.
nice-
Don't
no,
get me started on
like,
intelligence.
No, like these are things that you as a human being can work on.
You can work on them, and
and
you can
you
improve.
them.
But look, it doesn't matter how much I study, I'll never be Einstein.
Yeah,
Some
because
kids
you're
are
Richard
smarter than-
Jackson. You can't study to become Einstein,
Well,
but you
when
can
I
study
could
the
never
stuff
study
that-
enough to become even as smart, even approaching as smart as Einstein.
Maybe without
Or
that.
Stephen Hawking.
No, like for
People,
real.
look, there's a bell curve.
No, every
right?
person
And
on
some
this
people
earth,
are just
no,
inevitably
every
going to be on
person
one side or the
who
other.
is in a position of success used to not be in a position of success. Every person
That's not
used to not have what they have. Like they're human too. If a person has achieved something, you are just as capable of achieving that thing.
False.
If you try.
False.
Okay.
All of history refutes you.
Why?
Because it's not how it works.
What do you mean?
It's not how it works. It's not, you can't just, oh, well, he's president, therefore I can be
I'm not
president.
talking about president.
False. Oh.
I'm not talking about roles within society. I'm talking about like the the ability to do actual stuff. Like if you see a person who can
But
juggle,
presidents do actual stuff.
no, like I'm not talking about roles in society. I'm talking about like
what?
Like to juggle, right? Like
Okay.
I'm not trying to develop the skill to become a juggler. I'm developing the skill to juggle, right?
Okay.
If you look at a person who's juggling, you're not like, oh, I could never do that. That person has juggling genes out the wazoo. You're like, oh, he's juggling. I have arms. I have 3 balls. I could probably learn how to juggle. If you see an athlete, if you see someone lifting a lot of weight, maybe you can't lift 1,000 pounds, but you shouldn't look at someone and be like, oh, that guy's only doing that because he's genetically strong. No, like your genes can be changed based on the environment that you put yourself in. If you eat right,
genes can be changed based on the environment that you've. Are you sure about that? Is that true?
Methylation is the thing.
What is it called?
Methylation.
But can I change to the point that I can become like Dorian Yates? If
know
I
what
see
that is.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and I say, you know what, I want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, you can't.
There is no.
If you take
doubt.
steroids and you inject them, no, that changes
I'll
your
tell you what,
DNA.
I'll tell you what.
No, that changes your
Look,
DNA.
look,
If you're asking
It
for a
doesn't matter.
technical
It
answer.
does not
No.
matter how many steroids I take.
No,
I will never be.
if I go
Dorian
and I go to a gym and I start lifting
Yes.
heavy and I start deadlifting, my
Yes.
body will start producing
Yes.
more
You'll get
testosterone.
bigger.
My body
You'll
will
get
start producing
Yes.
more
Okay.
testosterone. That is a
I don't
genetic
disagree.
change.
Yeah, but you will not.
That is a genetic change.
So if you just so your proposition, just so I understand, is that you could take any person off the street, you could put them in the gym, and you could make them Mr. Olympia.
I can make them stronger.
No, but you're saying we all have the same opportunity. We all have the same, potential. So any of us can go and play
Yeah,
in
but
the
if
NBA.
other
Any of
people
us can
have the same
No,
potential, then the
false.
other person
False.
can make Mr.
False.
No, if you're talking about competition, then yeah, like it's not going to work because you can only have one winner. But if you're talking about ability, like your ability to do jujitsu, there's not only one
No,
person.
that's not what I'm talking about.
Stop.
Anybody
If
can
there-
go
no,
lift
there's
a
not only
weight.
one person
That's
who's
not
able
the
to do
individual
jujitsu in the
Mr.
world.
Olympia.
There are people who are able to do jujitsu, right? And you
Okay.
can become one of those people.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
don't
You're
have to-
changing. That's changing what I'm saying.
I'm
You're
not changing what you're
changing what
saying.
you're saying. Because I thought what you were saying was anybody could accomplish anything if they just put their mind to it and work hard.
No, I didn't say that. I said
You said every
people-
baby starts at 0,
every baby starts at
and
0.
and what? They can all go to 100.
And they can all become athletic. Everyone can become athletic.
Yeah, but not.
Everyone
But they
can-
can't become at the
No,
same
No,
athleticism.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
I
everyone
thought you
can.
were saying
everyone,
that.
no, I'm saying everyone can become athletic. Everyone can become. No,
I
everyone
don't know
can
if
become
that's true.
athletic.
I
Like
don't know
as
if that's
long
true.
barring some like major physical
My
disability,
original
you can
point-
take an unathletic person and they are just as capable as becoming
No,
athletic.
no.
Maybe they won't become
No.
just as athletic, but
Well, now you're changing what you
no,
were
but
saying.
also like if you take a person who focuses 4 hours of their day on becoming athletic versus the person who takes 1 hour a day, the person over here, does he have more potential to become athletic or is he just like needing his potential?
You were making a very broad statement.
That everyone starts at 0.
Everyone starts at 0.
And my response is that no, it is not true. Everyone has something. We all kind of are at different levels. And I wasn't saying that you can't, through working hard, improve whatever you're at. But everyone's different. When someone walks in the door, I don't care who they are, they fall on some sort of scale. Everybody. Everyone has a more, like the person who walks in and they've done judo,
So,
they are on a different athletic scale than the person who's never done any athletic or any sport ever.
and you think that that person can't become just as athletic as that person?
It's not impossible that a person would.
That's my only point. I'm not saying
I'm not
this
saying it's
unathletic. I'm not
impossible.
saying that this unathletic
Yes,
person
it is
can't
possible,
become
right?
can
It's
become
possible that you
an
can take a
Olympian.
person who maybe hasn't done any sports but has genetic potential, and through training they could actually become a world champion. Yes, that is true. What I'm saying is that everyone has a genetic potential. And now that we all have but we're all different, and everyone comes in through the door. They're not zeros. They all come in with a different ability. We see this in the kids. Some kids, they come in, they're very athletic, right? And some kids come in and they're not athletic. And
I don't think that's based as much on genes as you do, I think.
I mean, whatever it is, it's some kids are more athletic than others at the same age, for whatever reason. It's the same thing with adults. Some people are more
But the
athletic than
reason
others.
is what we're talking about. Right?
And,
If the
and
reason
not
is
everyone
not
has the same potential.
no, but if the reason is not like genetic, then if the answer is like then if I took another kid, put him in that same like environment that the athletic kid is in, then he can also reach that potential.
No, that is not true. I mean, look, if you took me, right, and you put me, you could flash me back into and put me into Michael Jordan's family, and I grew up exactly the same way as Michael Jordan grew up, I would not become the best basketball player of all time. You know why? You want to guess?
Because you don't believe it?
No, because I'm not 6'4" and have the athletic skills of a Michael Jordan. It's just silly to say that.
No, I think like.
I mean, now if you want to say, hey, would you become a pretty good basketball player, maybe even better than the basketball player that you are? Maybe. That's true. I'm not disputing that.
What if? Would you say then that Michael Jordan, if you wanted to, could be the best baseball player if you wanted to?
I mean, he was an okay baseball player,
But
not the
why
best.
isn't he the best?
Because baseball is a different set of skills than basketball.
But like he's just an athlete, right? Like his athleticism the athleticism is the reason that he's on top. So
No,
why
I didn't
why
say that
has
either.
his athleticism? Why? That's like that. You're
I didn't say
citing
any of
that as the reason why.
All
he's on
I
top.
said was that it doesn't matter how hard I work, I'll never be Michael Jordan, Dorian Yates,
But,
and any
but you're
top
saying
guy.
that the only reason.
I
that
didn't say
Michael,
the only reason.
The reason, no.
You're
come
saying
on.
it's the only reason.
No, like the logical conclusion from this is that like the reason that he is up there is because he has the most potential and he has reached it.
Well, that is true.
Okay.
He does have, I mean, he has a much higher ceiling the higher potential than me, right?
Yeah.
Than 99% of the other population that could play basketball. He has a very specialized set of skills, right, that allow him, if he works super hard, to become very good at basketball.
And those skills are genetic in origin.
No, I wouldn't say they're 100% genetic, but
Okay, that's
you know what? If you took Michael Jordan and you made him 5'5", he'd be Muggsy Bogues. He wouldn't be one of the all-time, best basketball players of the whole. He would be Muggsy Bogues, who's a great basketball player. I don't want to take anything away from Muggsy Bogues. He's an amazing guy. I mean, I love Muggsy Bogues, but he's not Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Like you can take. I mean, there are definitely guys who. Maybe they're not heralded, like a guy like, we'll say on the Bulls, like Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is an amazing athlete, but he's not a very skilled offensive player. And he tailored his game and his work ethic, and he took his genetic gifts, his athleticism, and he played a role on two very good teams. But he was a tremendous athlete. He just wasn't a good offensive player. If he had tried to be an offensive player, right, he just tried to be a scorer, probably would have never made the league. He found a role. I mean, but he's 6. I mean, what is Dennis Rodman? 6'10"? Again, he can jump through the roof. He's got amazing, he's got amazing endurance. He's just an incredible athlete. Like NBA players are by and large incredible athletes.
Yeah.
And they're tall. It's like an offensive lineman, right? No matter how hard I work, I'm not going to be an offensive lineman.
The height
in
thing
the NFL.
I'll give you, but like I don't know, the Muggsy Bogues thing kind of, is that his name? Muggsy Bogues.
Tyrone. I think his first name's Tyrone, actually.
I don't know, like if that guy can do it.
No, but that's where the false is, right? It's just because someone is small doesn't mean they can't be incredibly strong for their size or explosive for their size.
I don't get.
It's like the women, right? Like the Olympic weightlifting women. You take these women. They're like miracles. They're like, I don't know what they're. You take a woman who's 150 pounds, 120 pounds, and she can clean. Is it clean? No, it's snatch. Like 300 pounds. Yes, that woman is 115 pounds and she's doing 300 pounds over her head.
That's not
you know
genetic.
what? I don't know that anything that I could do would get me to that level, even though she's smaller.
What I don't understand. All right, so like you're one of the smartest people I know. Right?
That's not. I mean, you got to know more people.
That'd be nice, but we're in a pandemic. But I'm working with what I got.
Okay. All right. One of the smartest people in the room with you right now.
Sure. Right. And I just think that let's say we go back in time with you, and you decided to not go to university. You don't study literature. You don't go and become a lawyer, and you spend all of your time just doing jujitsu.
Yes.
I
would have been pretty good.
I'm not saying that you would be the best.
I'd be good. I'd be a lot better than I am right now.
You would be good, and I think that you could teach yourself how to be an athlete.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't think I was unathletic. I mean, I played sports. I was reasonable. I can do things. But there's limits, right?
But you experienced a change, right? Like you used to be not athletic at some point, and at some point you experienced athleticism to some degree.
I always had a level of coordination. Here's the difference, right? Like in my mind, I had when I played basketball, I played guard, right? Because I'm short, right? So I played guard. So I had a pretty good dribble.
I wasn't a great shooter, okay? But I was a pretty good passer. So I just couldn't shoot well. I don't know why. But I wasn't, like if you left me open, I might make it, but probably, 50-50, we'll see. But I was a pretty good passer, so I focused more on being a point guard. And I played defense. I played really hard defense, right? And I just stick my nose into places, and if I get fouled or I foul, so what? You kind of have to play that role.
Yeah.
And I remember, when I graduated high school, I remember I was playing, I came back, I think it was after my first year of college, I was playing pickup in my old school, and one of the coaches, like assistant coaches, came up who didn't know me, and was like, hey, we would love to have, do you go to school here? Because we need, and I'm like, dude, I graduated last year, whatever.
Yeah.
So, there was a style that I had that was like, it was like kind of a coach's, like, just throw me in, I'll go get 5 fouls or whatever, I'll go play defense. But the difference was, when I looked at guys that were able to play basketball, like they were starting players in high school, or they were, playing on college teams, is that they could do everything that I could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
Right, like I played. Actually, I had a pickup game once where Kerry Kittles, who played, he was at Villanova. I think he was on the Villanova, one of the Villanova national. Maybe I don't know if he won a national championship. He went pretty far. But then he went played for the Knicks, not the Knicks, the Nets. So he was, and he came to Penn State when I was like a junior or senior, and he was like a freshman. And he was like 6'5" or 6'6". He was very long and skinny, and he could dunk the basketball. Like Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Like we sat there and asked him to do all these dunks and stuff like that. He did everything that we asked him to do easily, right? And he could drain a shot from anywhere on the court.
Yeah.
Okay. And he could dribble and pass. Oh, incredible, right? Like he had all the skills that I had times 10, and he had so he's tall, he's fast. He has, all the abilities. It's not like he was a crappy skill player. He had all the skills, right? And I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. This guy can do everything on the court. He's amazing. This is what an NBA level prospect at the time.
Yeah.
And this was when he was like a freshman in college, right? He wasn't even close to polished.
Yeah.
I played. I had a chance to play with a couple of pro players that played in the league. Just after they were retired, whatever. Just through, because I was in Miami, so like Gary Grant was there one day, and he'd come in. And I played, played against D1 players, like D1 football players would come in. Sometimes the Miami basketball players would come in.
Where did you hang out?
The gym, man. I was a gym rat. All I did was play. So you start to feel like it's like jiu-jitsu. You think you're pretty good. You think you're okay, and then you train with somebody who is a world, maybe not even a world champion. Maybe it's just a guy who is perennially in the top. He's an Abu Dhabi, competitor.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best guy in the world, but and you roll with him and you're like, oh, okay.
But
this is another level.
But that
And let me
guy's
say this,
ability
too.
doesn't take away
The
from
level of
yours.
athleticism in jiu-jitsu, while it is getting better, is not the same level as even in wrestling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
But that's also
the athletes that we have are not on the same level as the athletes in the NBA or the NFL or wrestling. Now there are a few. I'm not like shitting on jiu-jitsu athletes. There are a lot of really good athletes. It's just we draw from a much smaller pool right now than and nobody really makes money from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Well, no one really makes money from wrestling either, but.
Well, but there's some glory involved in wrestling, right? There's an Olympic medal.
There is.
Well, and wrestling is more of a part of the fabric of American sports culture. There are places where wrestling is the sport in America, in big parts, Western Pennsylvania, New Jersey. There's just there's a culture there that's baked into the culture or into the fabric of our kind of sports consciousness. Wrestling is respected. If you told my kid does jiu-jitsu, most people would be like, what do you mean jiu-jitsu? Like Haiyan jiu-jitsu? That's what they'll do. They do the karate fight. You really think that like everyone is 0 and then we all can go to 100?
I feel like
we can all improve.
No,
I'll grant you that.
In order to treat everyone equally, I think it's important to both believe that people can change.
Well, I don't mean don't treat them equally.
No, but like I think if you don't believe that a person can like gradually change over time, or they did something in their past and they can like be able to not do those things in the future. No, I think that's really important.
No, I'm not saying that you can't get a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that, you come in and you're very unathletic and all you've done is like watch TV all your life,
Yeah. that
that you can't come in and get a lot better. And hey, maybe you do have the genetic potential to be really special.
You never know.
But
I'm just
not
saying,
everyone is the same.
But I'm just saying, like, if you think you might have a little bit of athletic potential, it's worth it because it's awesome. It's awesome. It's so.
One of the nice
fun.
things about jiu-jitsu is that you can, right? Like, it doesn't matter how hard you work at basketball, right? Like, if you're 18 years old and you haven't played basketball yet, you're probably not going to make it to the NBA.
Why
There
are we
are a
talking
few
about like
people.
the NBA? Who cares about the NBA?
It's just what I know.
Like, who cares
I don't
about
know the NBA.
like winning?
What I'm
worlds?
saying is, in jiu-jitsu, you can be 18 years old, walk in the door, and you might be a world
There's a
champion.
chance.
You could still do that
There's
because
less.
it's really
It's
rapidly
declining.
diminishing.
It's declining, but like.
But if you wrestled at a high level, if you wrestled D1 and you were pretty decent, you could probably do something in jiu-jitsu
Sure.
or MMA,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you could. I mean, I guess. If
I mean,
that's
come
what
on,
you
let's
want.
be real though. There's 17-year-old kids that are just wrecking shop right now.
I don't know. I want to get away from like the doing jiu-jitsu just to compete. Like, you could do jiu-jitsu to have this experience of becoming athletic, and becoming able to do stuff that you used to not be able to do, and being able to do that against other people who are actively trying to not let you do that.
That's not what I'm disputing. I'm just saying that everyone does not start or end with the same
I
level
feel
of
like just
ability
because
or
you can't
accomplishment.
because you can't measure or predict someone's potential, it's almost not even worth like talking about. Like,
No, I think
sure, you
I
can look
think
at their
you can
parents,
measure and
but
predict.
that's frowned upon in modern society. You shouldn't judge a child based on who their parents are anymore. That's something that people used to do back in the day. Everyone's a nice blank slate with the ability to become a good person.
That's
also
true.
the ability
Okay.
to become a bad person, but if they do, they also have the ability to come back and be a good person. That's part of the cool thing about life.
That's not one of the things I'm saying. I'm
If,
saying
if you're not an athlete, you shouldn't see yourself as like, I'm not an athlete, because if you internalize it, you're never going to be an athlete.
Well, maybe they don't want to be an athlete. Maybe they
not.
just
And
want to
if
be a
you don't-
rocket
And if
scientist.
you don't, if you want to be a rocket scientist, sure. But if same thing. If you're like, oh, I could never be a rocket scientist because my hair isn't curly enough, you'll never be a rocket scientist.
I can never be a rocket scientist because I'm terrible at math and chemistry.
You're terrible
and
at math
physics.
because you think you're terrible at math.
No,
If you thought
no.
you were as good at math as you thought you were as good at reading, you would be so good at math. You just don't think you're good at math. If
No,
you
I'm not good at
internalized
math.
it and made it part
I'm
of
not
your
good at
identity, you would make
I'm
damn well
not
sure.
going to say I'm bad at math, but like I'm not. There are people that can see the field, as it were. It's kind of like a football metaphor, right? There are people that can just they just see things or they understand things more than other people, better than other people.
Every person sees and understands things.
Like better,
More or
right?
less.
Like for the purpose that they're doing, right? Like so
Yeah,
some
but-
people like look. There's a whole body, right, or a whole group of people who do math for a living, right?
Calvinists.
Whatever.
Okay.
I don't know what that means,
Oh, sorry.
right? I mean, in all parts of life,
Yeah.
right? You have mathematic professors,
Uh-huh.
right? People who just think about math, and you have mathematic people who are like on Wall Street just thinking about how do I take this math and make it money. And then you have people who are like scientists who are like, how do I take this math and like discover things or or find things out about the world
Do cryptocurrency.
or whatever. You have scientists who are like, you know what, or people that are really good at math that are like, how do I contact alien life, or how do I protect the nation's secrets, right? The NSA or whatever. How do we have cryptography?
Yeah.
You'd be like all these really really smart people, but like every year you have like I don't know if it's every year or every 2 years, but you have like the Fields Medal, right? You have like the person who does something that is so amazing in math that they give them a special medal. They're like, you are #1 math person for the year.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the Nobel Prize, right? Like if somebody discovers some cure for some type of cancer, they give you the Nobel Prize, for science or whatever it is. They say you are the best sciencey, mathy person, right? And that's every year. Everyone's like,
And it's like $1 million too.
yeah, you get some money, and everyone's like, well done, sir. You are a Nobel laureate.
Yeah.
At that point. So there's a recognition, even amongst all those really super smart guys and women that like there's one person who's, or maybe it might be a group of people, because sometimes we give it to a group, not just one person, it's a team.
Yeah.
You know, they discover some new particle in physics or something,
Yeah.
or they invent string theory, I don't know all that
Yeah.
stuff. This is all just magic words to me.
Yeah.
But they recognize that someone has seen further, seen more, done something that distinguishes them from amongst all their super smart.
Shoulders of giants.
Yes.
Shoulders of giants, right? Every person
Yes.
is standing upon other people.
Yeah,
with
they
good
couldn't have
words.
done it without Leibniz and
You know,
Newton.
we're all just like building off of each other, and
Yes.
like it's a continuous process.
Yes.
And everyone's viewpoint, like.
But you know what?
No, your viewpoint as a human used to be like a lot limited compared to what it is now.
Yes.
That's the process of being human.
Actually, it was much broader. It's gotten
As,
limited as I've
well, I
gotten
mean,
older.
it does change. It doesn't always get bigger, but like that's the idea, right? Like as you go about life, your scope and how you see things like either.
But here's the
gets bigger or
thing.
gets smaller.
If I'm a regular sized person and I stand on the shoulders of a giant, I won't see as far as a giant who's standing on the shoulders of a giant.
Okay, what's your point?
My point is that like I'm not that good at math, so therefore, even if I read and understood
But is
everything that Newton did,
Is the only reason
or
that
wrote,
you're doing
I
something?
still wouldn't see as far as
do you
Stephen Hawking.
only do things so that you can be the best?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
Does a person
No,
only do
I'm not
things
saying
so
that
they
either.
can
I'm
be
just
the
saying
best?
that like we all have our own
Why can't you
individual
just enjoy
skills
being
and
tall?
gifts.
Like if like a
No,
person
look.
wants to be athletic, you just like part of the awesomeness of life is like if you want to be athletic, you can go be athletic.
You can go
If
try
you-
to be athletic.
If you, no,
You can try to be more
athletic. If you don't have some sort of like weird illness, like you can become athletic.
Become more athletic.
Like if you're too big, eat less and then lift more. Like you can become
More athletic.
athletic.
More athletic.
No, like it's if you have enough, assuming you don't
There's
die,
a scale of athleticism.
or
Would
you're
you
not
agree?
old.
Is there a scale for athleticism?
No.
Some people are more or less than
I
athletic.
like the binary thing. You're an athlete or you're not. You do athletic things or you don't. I don't know. It's
All right.
probably a scale. It's probably like a grid or a lattice. I wonder what would be on the.
And some
axis
people
of
are on
the
one end and some people are on the other, and it doesn't matter. Like CrossFit, right?
Yeah,
So
but-
like, there's some guy who's a CrossFit.
But
like,
we acknowledge that people can move around in the lattice, right? Like
To
you're
some
not
degree.
always going to be that athletic, right? You're going to be.
no, I'm
less
gonna get
or more.
worse. I'm gonna get less athletic. I've been getting less. I peaked, and then
You would say that you've reached your potential.
well, I've come about as close to my potential as I'm ever likely to get.
Huh.
I don't know that anyone. I think it's a rare thing that people actually meet their potentials.
I just like.
In
what- I
anything
still
in
don't get.
I don't
what
think I met
potential-
my potential as a lawyer. I don't think I met my potential as a jiu-jitsu, student. I don't think I met my potential
How do I
as a
still-
parent. Like we are.
What is my potential?
Well, I think we have a point, right? So you have people who do dedicate themselves to something, an endeavor, right? Like, let's say somebody wants to go and win a world championship. Let's keep it in jiu-jitsu. Someone wants to become a world champion.
Can we
in
go away
jiu-jitsu.
from the competition thing?
No, I just want to say potential, because potential indicates that you've reached some sort of peak
But like,
that is your ceiling.
but that's like, are we talking about society's peak or my peak? Because my peak isn't always going to be society's peak. If I try my best,
Whatever
maybe
it
I'll
is.
get third.
Whatever it is, maybe, right? Okay, so let's say I go and it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter. But we can take it away from competition, right? We just say we're rolling around,
Yeah.
right? Okay, we're just rolling around in the room.
Alright.
Okay, we have people come in, whatever. Most people are not the best person when they first walk in the door. Usually, in a generally decent sized gym,
Yeah.
they're usually one of the. Even if they're athletic, they're usually not killing people. They might be making things hard for people, but that person can work really hard, and if they do so, they might reach their peak jiu-jitsu ability, right? And be able to be the best person or one of the best people in this room, right? But that takes work, right? Like anything, it takes work. You gotta do the things that make you better at jiu-jitsu. Now, most people, when they do jiu-jitsu, they're not trying to be the best person in the room, right? At least when they first come, they want to get better, but they're not necessarily. It's kind of like one of those things where you say, "All right, these guys over there, they're the best. I'm like over here. I'm like, man, all right, I just started. How much work is it going to take for me to go and be like one of those guys?" And for some people, it'll be like, I think I could get there. and without too much effort, you know, or maybe, you know, I have enough time and where I can do it, right? Like if I'm a little kid, if I'm 12 years old and I see the older people, you know, the adults, if I'm 12, I'm like, hey, I know I can beat that guy, right? I just need to get a little bigger, right? And that will happen. Eventually that 12-year-old will be 17 and will be wrecking everybody in the room. But if you're like a 40-year-old person, right? And you come in and you're like, well, how hard do I have to work to be one of the top people in this environment? You might say to yourself, man, I don't know if I can work that hard, you know? And then so you're not working to your highest potential, right? Now, everyone has a different goal. Some people might say, hey, listen, for me to work that hard, I might get hurt. I might not be able to, maybe I have other obligations that I have to meet, like I have to go to work and I have to, you know, I can't get sick or I can't get injured. You know, so there's some other limit. I don't have health insurance, so if I get hurt here, I'm going to be out of work, and then I can't pay my bills. So I'm not going to like mix it up with those guys over there, or work as hard as I would need to work. Or hey, you know what? I work 10 hours a day. I can't put in the time. Other people can put the time.
Is that included in someone's potential? Like their obligations and their responsibilities? Does that like factor in? Do you consider that as part of it?
I mean, it gets to the motivational part of, I think, you know, like when you talk about this, they talk about like your physical potential, like your physical abilities. They talk about like your mental abilities and like your emotional, right? Your motivational, right? So someone can be very athletic. I know you don't like that word. You know, they can have a lot of athletic potential, but maybe either their mind isn't right? They do things that are self-destructive within the counterproductive, not self-destructive, but counterproductive to their goal. Or they don't have the emotional or motivational strength to carry on, right? Like the person who gets so upset because they get tapped out, or because they don't get the tap, they get depressed, or they get discouraged because they're not successful, right? Or you know, the classic is the person or the kid who's very successful, who's the best on the field, or the best in a whatever the sport is, and then they get up to the next level and they're average. At best, if not getting their shit handed to them. And then what happens, they've gone from being the top dog to being like,
well, now it's not fun anymore.
So what happens, they fold up their tent, they hate it. You know? And the ones that are able, and not everyone has the mental fortitude, right? And sometimes, you know, it's support too. It's your parents or your friends or your wife or your husband or whatever it is. If you don't have that support, it doesn't matter how much of a great athlete you are, or how mentally tough you are, if you don't have the support of your family, so, you know, like, it doesn't matter how good a kid is, if their parents don't bring them here, they're not going to get better at jiu-jitsu. So you have to, I mean, it's not just, you're right, the environment, these are all environmental factors, right? Like, in terms of like your parents and the support, and, you know, what kind of school you're in, and what they're teaching you, and how they treat you, and all these things, right? Like, some schools are super competitive, and you're just like, I want to see the kids just go at it. And that will select for a certain type of kid. But there might be other maybe even, you know, kids with more potential who are going to fall through the cracks because they don't thrive in that environment, right? Maybe that kid just need maybe a lot more encouragement and support. And so, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, just because you are the strongest kid means that you're going to be the best. I mean, that's demonstrably false as well. There are a lot of people who have just like incredible athletic gifts, but they have something else missing, or maybe more than one thing missing. That it's like a stool. You need 3 or 4 legs on a stool to be able to use it, right?
At least 3.
I mean, you can use one of those stools with but then it has a very light base.
What?
Like a bar stool that has like just the one post, but then it comes out into like a wide base. So maybe, you know.
Technically, it's one leg. I was thinking about like how many points you need to make a plane. But
you need, like, if it's a regular stool, right, you're gonna have 3 legs. So you need to have all 3 of those things. But some people's stools are even taller than others.
Or slightly wobbly.
I
like this nature versus nurture.
Well, I mean, that's the eternal debate, right?
It's kind of a cliche.
But you need, the idea is like you really need both. There's very few people that are so athletically gifted that they can overcome the lack of support in those other 2 areas.
I also just think it's rude to make assumptions about a person's future based on how they are now.
I'm not making assumptions. I'm saying you can make pretty good educated guesses.
Is that an assumption?
No, because look, there are people, there are coaches out there who say like, oh, this kid's parents are X.
Yeah.
He wrestled, and so therefore they give all the attention to that.
Yeah, but if you're looking at a 5-year-old who like can't figure out how to like walk and run, you're like, oh, that kid's never gonna be an athlete.
I mean, you have like, it reminds me of like Russia and Germany where they were just like, all right, you know what I saw the other day? I saw this, so there's this documentary about a ballet school in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a ballet school where you can go very young.
Yeah.
And
is it one of the nice ones or one of the
super nice? It's like the top, it's like there's the New York Ballet.
By nice I mean not abusive.
I don't think they're abusive. Okay. It probably is abusive when you get to the higher levels. Just like it's like
in general,
highly competitive when you get up to the higher levels where it's like you're going to turn pro. Mm-hmm. There's only so many ballet jobs in the world, you know.
Interesting.
But what they do is they have open auditions, and obviously these are little kids, so like 5 and 6 year olds when they start.
Yeah.
And so they come in, they put them through. It's like an audition. They have to dance a little bit, whatever. They just want to see. It's not technical. They're not like, oh, how good is this kid at doing these technical skills?
Yeah.
That's not what they're looking at. They're looking for like
life.
Are they enjoying themselves? Do they have are they relatively coordinated?
Yeah.
Do they know anything about ballet?
Are they awake?
But here's the thing, this is what they do. They come around and then they start stretching the kids, right? They want to see how do their hips move. They want to see, they want to see your flexibility. They want to see, they're arching their backs. They're making them move around to see they're looking at their body types. They're saying, how tall, how old are they? What's the length of their arm, the length of their legs? They're literally measuring these kids and their ability to move in a ballet way. And that's, sometimes they're just like, yeah, lovely kid, beautiful, whatever, but they're not flexible. They're not flexible enough to actually, they don't have the potential, they don't have the body type to make this worthwhile.
Yeah, but ballet is also like a well-established, I don't know if it's a sport.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying this is something that one of the top schools in America is doing in America.
Yeah, but people also
to select and sort potential.
People also used to look at the insides of skulls to see if the person would be smart or not. Times change.
Look, I'm not.
You can't look at a 5-year-old and make an assessment on how.
When you look at scouting reports,
you're not looking at scouting reports. You're looking at a child. You're making an assumption based on how they appear. That's rude.
Well, I mean, from their perspective, to play their defense, they have 5,000 kids that are looking for a spot.
Sure.
They've got 100 spots.
Yeah, from a pragmatic standpoint.
They've got to there's a lot of very qualified kids, right? So or whatever.
Yeah,
so they're going to look at the most promising.
Yeah,
they have to win it down.
They're just trying to do their best to find the best one without having to actually do the work it would take to find the best one. You're just using
they don't have the resources to do it.
Yeah.
They have to they have a shorthand. They say, look,
funneling
but they also have 40 years of experience of looking at kids. At some point, you can say, look, I mean, you can kind of tell, right? You're working with somebody what their top end is.
It's rude.
It's not rude.
No, you can't. I don't know. I work with 5-year-olds, and some of them are uncoordinated, and I assume that eventually they won't be uncoordinated at some point.
All right, say goodbye. Oh, what's the code word, Coach Kevin?
What's the code word?
Not the safe word, the code word.
Oh.
We want to make one up?
I like Mark Ruffalo. What's wrong?
Mark Ruffalo?
Mark
Like the Gruffalo?
No.
Do you know the Gruffalo?
No.
It's a book, the Gruffalo.
No. Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
What? That's the code word for today?
That's
the code word for today is Mark Ruffalo.
That's going to always be the code word.
No, it's going to change. Because this is the deal. If you guys are still watching this right now, I am amazed. But, look, we're going to give stuff away.
Nice.
And I want to give away, who should we start with? A free month of jiu-jitsu.
That's cool.
Free month of jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Here, it's not just transferable, right? Like if you can't make it here, you can't ask for $250, okay?
We pay for someone to train somewhere else.
Yeah, we're not. It's not a. This is you have to come here and train. Yeah. And if you're a current student, then you get a free month. If you're you want to come and train, you get a free month. But I'm not mailing anybody a check for $250 or anything like that.
What we should do is everybody who wants to keep training should send the code word. If you haven't sent the code word, you're at risk of being removed from the academy permanently.
You'll get banned if you don't know the code word. Well, the code words will be asked of you when you come in the door. No. So we'll do this one for the first week.
Okay, Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo is for today, the code word.
Oh, this is weird.
So it's Tuesday, so this will be easy. So we'll have a code word and then you'll have to know the code words. And look, you can go and watch these videos; they'll be saved if you didn't watch this one. But you gotta know the code word to win the prize. All right. So the prizes for this week is going to be a free month of jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
It's cool.
Cool. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like a free month. That's like $200 right there.
Yeah. And you get to learn my safe word.
Your code word.
Yes.
Safe word is totally different thing. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed our little debate that I won.
Were
Totally.
they watching us there?
What?
Or is the end screen up?
No, the end screen's up, but then I have to switch it over to the. So you watch. You press this button.
Ah.
So you press this button, and then we go away.
So when I say Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah. See, now watch. I can do it. I can put us back.
Oh, that's weird.
This is very professional. Let me tell you. This took me 2 months to figure out. All right. Bye.